Still looking at me.
Hey, what up, my gang? It's Mighty Adventure, and this is another movie review video in which I'm going to be talking about and discuss. And of course, this was a requested by Collins Vincent that he originally want me to react to of the movie trailer from Netflix called Polar. And if you are watching this, by the way, I know that you told me that I should react to it of the trailer. Well, here's the thing. I could do more than that. I actually got a chance to watch the movie instead, and I dare to say that the movie was freaking decent and a really storytelling that I haven't seen. And yes, so this is a movie review about Polar. So I will give my best of my impression of the film, and there are some things that I like about it without having to explain the whole story of it and bore you to death. So I'll just give it as short as I can and simply get this over because I gotta watch the WWE Royal Rumble because I'm pretty sure it's already started. But anyways, all right. So let's start off from the beginning and then we'll go to the middle and to the end as possible. So let's go ahead and start off about it. All right. So obviously that the movie is based on a graphic novel that was from Dark Horse Entertainment. Now that was extremely rare because usually you get movies that's based on from DC to Marvel, but never been around with Dark Horse. I think there was of course, that was the Conan the Barbarian with Jason Momoa, but I'm not sure if that's technically that is, but that's how I remember. And of course, Hellboy. But anyways, let's start off with that the original title of the graphic novel was called Polar. Came from the code, which I did a little research of where that story came from. So now seeing that, and of course that was written by Victor Santos. So this was considered the book that was a mature rated for readers. And given the fact of seeing this movie for the first time, it was treated as a ultra-violent thriller movie that's basically there's going to be a lot of gun shooting, in-depth stories, and of course there will be some gut wrench of torture, nudity, and well, not completely whole nudity if you get what I'm trying to say, right? But it's basically this was a really in-depth story, and that's something I haven't seen before. Other than the times with the Punisher Warzone, that was considered my favorite. But now seeing this is like, okay, maybe I'm just gonna consider that this is gonna be my favorite of all time of this year. So, there are a few things that caught my peak about this. Like starting with the beginning of the movie, I did not expect Johnny fucking Knoxville was gonna be in this movie, and that was just basically a small role for him. So he's basically was the nameless former soldier to a mercenary, now retiring, getting high and lifting weights just to impress some hoochie mama in a leopard bikini, just to impress, which he was not aware that he's being assassinated, ploy by the unknown group, which I just simply made it up to call them as the Hit Team because they don't have a proper team name. They just go by the name of Falcrado, Hilde, Alexi, and Cindy. That's pretty much all the names. I don't know what the other name, what the big dude's name with the ponytail, which is weird. They took their time and they just killed his ass, and a little disturbing about that when they killed him, his erection was still continuing, you know, if you get what I'm saying. And afterwards, they left. Of course, the erection started faded down. And look, I really prefer it. I don't want to talk much about it because the last thing I want for this video be to demonetize, and I would be pissing myself. But other than that, you have the main protagonist, which is the name Duncan Phillips, that's played by Mads Mikkelsen, who's known for his reputation from Casino Royale, Hannibal from the TV series, Doctor Strange, and also from Star Wars Rogue One. Now he is a formidable actor, and he knows when to play his part, and he does his best. And not to mention that he's also an executive producer to this film. But anyways, Duncan Phillips, aka the Black Kaiser, that's what they called him, because that name sounds pretty badass, because given the reputation that he lives for, being as a professional and a damn well good at it of his profession as an assassin. The thing is, he's in his 50s now, so his body is completely nothing but scars, damaged, ribs torn from the inside, and he's not living up like how he used to be back in his early years. So now he retires, and the one thing he wants to do is try to live normally as he could, which I'm pretty sure that it's not going to be that easy. And things would be that simple, but of course, a well-known a familiar face named Vivian, she's basically an accountant and a client to her employer, Mr. Bluth, who's the head of the organization. And look, I don't quite remember the name of what he calls it, but it's basically that it's European. And so just do me a favor, just tell me what the name of the organization is on the comment section, so that way I can understand what that means. So I apologize. But anyways, he's a real crazy son of a bitch. I mean, he's got a oral fixation when it comes to medieval weapons, from the Roman age to the barbarian age. I mean, he's just crazy. And I don't understand what's up with the lotion. It's just kind of disturbing, you know what I mean? It's just weird. Is it just for his skin? Is it because of the fact that he's albino? I don't know. I guess he is. I'm not here to judge. But basically, Vivian wanted to offer Duncan one job only, to eliminate Mr. Pedro, who just left the U.S. and now somewhere hiding in Russia. And even though that this is going to be a good money for his pension, he declines because he retires. But she was unclear that if you officially are retiring, or you're still an asset. And he just completely say no, and he left the town, and he's now being relocated in the Triple Oak, Montana, where he can just try to live peacefully and living in the cabin, and that's it. That's all he's wanted to do, is just doing normal stuff. But like I said, it's not that easy, because it was cute the day he actually got himself a dog, and which is funny that he actually have a guidebook how to train a dog. But one thing that kind of got me a little glance is whenever he falls asleep or rested his eyes, he started having automatic flashes of things that's going to happen and fast forward in the future. And then it brings the tale of his last job that he basically was to have of a contract job that he killed. It has something to do with that. Basically, something happened in the back seat, and struggling trying to figure out what it is. And by the time he woke up, he shot the dog. I mean, good Lord, that was just brutal as hell. I sometimes it's really disturbing to see some innocent pets get killed in the crossfire like that, or unexpectedly, or maybe the fact that maybe I've been watching too much of a JoJo Bizarre Adventures episodes, because in the JoJo universe, animals, or especially dogs, get killed off the most heinous, brutal way as fashion. Ay, ay, ay. Anyways, so he buried the dog. I mean, God rest his soul to Rusty. And then all of a sudden, he took a glare look at the next door cabin, where the mysterious girl was just ominously just wonders, and then tries to chop up some wood, and which that the mysterious girl is played by Vanessa Hudgens, and she is a lovely actress, and this has got to be the first time she ever been into a thriller movie, or at least to my knowledge, because everybody knows her from those Disney movies that I prefer, don't want to talk about it. And the fact that she looks good for in the age of 30. So, not to try to be judgmental, I'm just saying that she looks good. That's all I got to say. So, afterwards, they actually started talking, started communicating, and because she was very quiet. I mean, she was literally a quiet, odd-looking girl, and she's so jumpy, and part of me wanted to try to figure out what's the deal. So, the next night, Vivian called Duncan to reconsider to take this job, because Mr. Blute is the kind of a guy that refused to decline this offer, and she now started to make it a triple offer to make it worth it, to add it to his pension. And now he has no choice but to go to Russia. And that's where that's where that he's known for his profession, that simply finished the job. Not to mention that he slept with some hooker with a son. That's kind of a, well, that's Russia for you. So, of course, Pedro and his boys were partying, and started and quote unquote, from Biggie Smalls, partying and bullshit, and that's what it is. And so the front lobby off, the bell from of course the manager from the front lobby had to get the handyman to drill out of the door to try to get the door forcibly or manually. And before that happened, Pedro got a call and basically given a warning that there's a killer out there that is gunning for him. And of course, Pedro got irritated of the sound of the drill. He bum rushed to the door, and boom, Duncan in the skies grabbed him to the throat, nailed him to the wrist, on the wall, and he just shot 2 nails to his balls. Holy shit! That kind of got me like, oh my god, he just put that man's balls into the wall and just make sure he doesn't go anywhere. And he just executed the other 2, and he just definitely took his time, because he knows that they were hiding in the back, and that's where things become more complicated, because his files were exposing it to the table, and that kind of got him to realize that someone tipped him off, and get the feel that he's being set up. And of course, Pedro, he doesn't know And despite having that drill going to his forehead, slowly taking the time, at least he did the job. It called Vivian to notify that I finished the job, and I like to know who set me up, and you better pray that you had nothing to do with this. And she started to lose it and panicking that this was a bad idea. And she even had to beg Mr. Blute to reconsider, to just give him the money and leave him alone, because the fact that his birthday is coming up pretty soon. And Blute just go like, okay, we'll make it happen. But I had the suspicion that I think he was lying through his teeth, because with the fact that now that Mr. Flass just figured it out what's going on, he couldn't take the chance, so he simply want him dead. So like I said, I just called on the hit team to try to find Mr. Flass. And of course, they even though they got all the mortgage files and the accountant money that's been transferred of different locations, they didn't find him. No, they looked everywhere for him. They went through Miami, Florida, all the way to Austin, Texas. No luck. Every location they went to was all nothing but fakes. And obviously that was just a cover-up by Duncan, because he doesn't want to be found. So this is basically just covering the tracks of where he is and where is he staying. And that was pretty smart for him. Until they overlooked of the stubs of the donations that was wiring, and that being transferred to one bank that was located where else? Triple Oak. And now they have a suspicion that Duncan might be living there elsewhere back in Montana. So basically they were, Duncan and the girl was starting talking, which that's pretty nice. And this is where the funniness began. That would you believe that Duncan was trying to attempt to be as a volunteer teacher of teaching kids how to use the kunai knife and syringes, pictures of the dead targets. I mean, I'm about to lose my mind and start laughing, because like, why would he do that? I just didn't understand. And what's disturbing about this? Why is the teacher not doing anything? This was so silly. It was so damn silly. And his response of the girl's question was, how did it go? And he said, I believe it went good, I think. Jesus Christ. So the next day, that he wanted to give the girl a gift, which is a Magnum pistol, and her reaction was speechless and a silent shock. And even though that he wanted to teach her how to shoot, her hands were starting to shake, and she was starting to stagger and starting to cry. And his response was, "It's okay. I'll give you a better gift." Jesus, Duncan, you're not helping. You're not helping. And here's something I was kind of did not expect of the girl. And which, by the way, her name is Camille. So, like I said, I've seen the movie, so it was awesome. So, anyways, at her cabin, she explains of a one-story incident when she was 13 years old. she liked her job as Santa's little helper. And of course, the mall Santa was heavily drunk and just smacked her so hard that she fell to the floor. And the next thing, and of course, tears were coming out, and I had a suspicion what she was trying to say, that she was being raped, and that was a really horrific scene just to think of it. And she explained how she was old enough that she got herself a gun and basically pointed right at to that of that drunk perv to know exactly how she feels, and closing her eyes, and that all it took was one bullet to end his miserable life. And that was a deep story about what she experienced through. And elsewhere, it didn't take long enough for the gang to finally found Duncan, and of course they basically set a trap to put a plan into motion, have it Cindy to be as the damsel in distress, having her car being broke down, and which Duncan carelessly give her a hand, and of course, let's just say that they just got boned at a snowy night. And of course, the team was in a position ready to kill, and of course, it backfired, and Duncan just raised that girl up, and she took the shot instead, and managed to pick up the gun and try to cover himself. And that bitch Cindy was giving him off exactly where he is, which they're still in the bedroom, and pick up the hatchet, took one shot to the kneecap, and throws the hatchet right to her skull. It was over, and Falkrotto, it was trying to keep a closely eye to the bedroom, which no sign of the target. And one thing that got me so impressive and really literally balls, that the Black Kaiser literally just walked. No, I didn't mean he walked. He just runs his ass all the way. It's like he has a really accurate sixth sense of exactly where the sniper was, and he caught him naked. That's right. He caught him from behind, butt ass naked in a snowstorm. Obviously, the snow didn't bother him. Hell, not even the weather itself could touch Duncan Phelps, the Black Kaiser, and just ended him. And of course, the other two were still now they forced themselves to have to defend themselves from the inside, and capped off the other guy. And of course, Hilde, whatever, was trying to hide herself behind the fridge, and luckily, he turned on the thermoscope and just took his time until she makes one mistake by simply breathing in and breathe out, and that brings the vapor of the air that she's breathing out, and just over. But I'm afraid this was the worst situation. The situation now even got worse, because before the big guy got killed, he did call Alexei that it was time to go to Plan B, and by the time he realized what's happening, it was already too late. Camille was been taken by Alexei, and of course Mr. Blute was pissed off that his girlfriend got killed off by the Black Kaiser, and even though Vivian warned him that it's not a good idea to fuck with the Kaiser, and apparently things got personal, that his girl's lost, so he's taking Mr. Falas's girl. So now he's trying to find Camille and bring her back. So he needed a tip to an old friend named Porter that was played by Richard Dreyfuss, a well-known veteran actor that most people should recognize it from his roles from Jaws to Cocoon, and also Red. So if you see that movie, then you know where he is. But of course, he did provide the information, but he literally stabbed him in the back by drugging him, and where that now Mr. Blute has the Black Kaiser in his clutches, and now he's being chained up. And I gotta say that the torture part was so disturbing. I was like, part of me wanted to continue keep my eyes open to see this, but yet I just didn't want to. I just want to turn away, because using those cutting tools, and I think that's like a repair cutting tool, and just clipping of his skin, exposing the flesh, bleeding all over, and just oozing out of it, and God. And he wanted to continue to torture him more within the 4 days. By the time 4 days will expire, that will be the day that his birthday will be showing up, and this is where he will die. And as for Camille, and I failed to mention about the Junkie Jane was there just shooting up heroin each days, just slowly numbing her down, ensuring that she doesn't try to escape. And she was completely pale and just on the brink of death. And by the time that the final four ended, of course, that poor Mr. Blunt lost his favorite knife. It snapped it into Mr. Falas's skin. It's so already dig deep in. Boo-hoo-hoo. By the time when he left, and this was the perfect time for Duncan to try to dig it out of the broken blade that's still embedded to his flesh. And I guess that he must have took his time to cut off the shackles, and retribution, I tell you that. And the Kaiser did not waste any time of eliminating so many guards, killing one by one. And of course, Mr. Blute just got away from him. And I can tell you that he was shitting himself. One thing that got me curious about is he wearing the Gucci shoes, or with the Gucci shoes that has the high heels? What the fuck? But anyways, he left of the facility, and he was, I mean, you know, of course, with the adrenaline rush that goes in through his skull. Yeah, I mean, he got out of there, but he was in no shape to make it to save Camille. So he was down for one option, that he needed help from Jasmine, that they know each other for way back. And I did mention about every time he falls asleep, that automatic flashes of his past, of his last job, is to continue to haunt him. And I'm starting to think there's gotta be, it's a hint that tells me there's something about it that how it all started to make sense more. Woke up, and I mean, and I forget, and you know what? I forgot to mention that Mr. Blute that stabbed Doug into the eye. Yeah, I forgot to tell you that. But he rested long enough. It is time that Mr. Blute dies. So he needed all the armory, weapons that he needed. And he got this really cool remote control miniguns that attach to through the gloves, which is sensories that can actually move remotely. And now he wants to make a call to Vivian to make it a deal, to have a trade, a life for life. Basically, Duncan's life for Camille's life. And all this talking was basically for Vivian for her to trace the call instead of have to make a reservation to meet. She actually beat him to it, and completely armed with bunch of ex-soldiers, gear up with the weapons and just wait for the signal to shoot. And even though Duncan just offered her the one last chance to walk away, but it was already too late. And of course, it was already too late that he made his own decision by put the gloves on and just move his arms freely. And while the guns were blazing down and just mowing every single one of those soldiers that was being paid by Mr. Blute, and Mr. Blute himself just completely have his jaw open and just going. And I had said to myself, I think you're going to stop eating right now because your men are dead as fuck. And as for poor Vivian, looks like she got shot in the back, but she's not dead. But she is in a worse shape, and I have a feeling that she's probably going to be bleeding to death. So that's on her. And Blute, honestly, I forget what the actor's name, but I instantly remember him in Bridesmaid. So if you could tell me who he is, but just do me a solid on that one. But other than that, he is pleading and begging to call out his guards. The next night, it was the showdown. The Black Kaiser walks in the night, rocking out with the eye patch, and just coming out in the most badass way. And the guards knew. The guards knew, is like, yo, fuck this. I'm not going to deal with this. This is not on my pay rate. They left right in front of Mr. Blute, and they just like, come back. And by the time he went in, one of the guards said, he's upstairs. Yeah, thanks for the tip. And he just slowly walk in, passing some old bitch as a secretary, and just he grabbed the battle axe, and Mr. Blute just brings his favorite weapon, the Roman soldier sword, and it didn't took that long. Let's just say that Mr. Blute just got beheaded. So that was the end of him, and managed to save Camille and drag her out of that building, and took her back to Triple Arc, and did pretty much everything he could to slowly drain down of the heroin that's been in her body. It took about several days, and by the time that he woke up just to check on her, and that's where things started to make more sense from the start. And remember when I said about those automatic flashes of his past, of his last job, that the reason why he chose to retire? There were documents, document files, photos, newspaper articles about that same day that was years ago now started to escalate it, of the imageries of his job, and that he apparently he eliminated a couple of families. That was something that he didn't expect. There were bodies lying on their own blood and completely flat out dead. Only one girl was a survivor, and you wouldn't believe who that girl was. It was Camille, the same girl who Duggan was talking to her through the beginning of the whole film. I'm sorry, during the film. And those last words from Camille, only eyes can see. And bam, there she was with the gun, placing it right into his face. And Camille was completely shocked that he didn't remember her. It was completely unexpected, and she just wanted to know why. And the fact that the fact that the information that Duggan gave was incorrect, which obviously that they knew that Duggan was going to kill Camille's father, but what they were counting on that was going to execute his family. And she literally didn't want to hear any more crap. And that's where she just ready to pull the trigger, and Duggan just says, "I'm sorry." And that's where she pulled the trigger. The gun ignited. Birds were flapping. In about few seconds, her last words was, "Do you know what my father works?" Duggan replied, "No." And obviously on that scene, that obviously that it was unclear. Well, okay, it was unclear that if that Camille did shoot him or did she miss intentionally. And she wanted to know exactly what does her father's business does, and she's willing to find out with Duggan. And his response was, "We can only try." And that's when he simply was out taking a smoke outside, and Camille is just standing outside next to him, and just no words to say, and that was it. That was the end of the movie, and I had a suspicion that we have not seen the last of Duggan Velez and Camille, because I have a feeling that they probably are going to be making a sequel for the movie. So only time will tell, and that was it. That I dare to say that was a really storytelling of bringing every bit from the graphic novel into this film, and it does so well. I mean, that literally speechless, and that was pretty entertaining. I will and dare to say. So I enjoyed it, and hopefully in the future that we will get a sequel, because obviously this story is far from finished. So only time will tell. So that's it for the video. Hope you get to hear what I got to hear of my impression and my thoughts about it. So again, to Collins Vincent, thank you for thank you for of this really interesting movie. So I thought maybe it would be best I could watch it instead of reacting to it. But again, thank you so much. And if you have any other requested videos you want me to do, whether it could be reaction to a trailer or something else that's relatable to comics or animated, I will do that for you, no problem. And this is basically me just having entertainment for myself, and that you get to enjoy it, something that you like. With that said, I'm Mighty Avenger. I'm ending this video, so now I need to go watch the Royal Rumble. So that's it. I'm out, and I'll catch you on the next video. So take care, guys.